The courthouse in a small town was a magnet for people, drawing them in to pay taxes, vote, and watch court when it was in session. Businesses followed the people with stores on all sides of the courthouse square. One of the many eating places available on the square is the tea room, whose owner was attracted by the charming houses available in the town.
The town itself was like a Mayberry town for me to live in, which I always wanted to live in a place like here. And the house I picked out is the most charming house I could have ever chosen. It's grand, and I was able to change it to my designs, what I wanted. And my neighbors are lovely. Couldn't ask for any place better to be, except for the humidity and the thunderstorms.
Small towns attract a wide variety of people.
Why did I come to Canton? Many people ask me that. I came to get away from Los Angeles specifically and to go back to my youth, to a small southern town where I grew up, and recreate, which I have done to a remarkable degree, recreate my grandmother's house. And in so many ways it's similar. And I realized I could get on a plane in Jackson and I could go to New York or Los Angeles whenever I wanted to and have the best of both worlds, but still have this to come back to. And I got to know the town during my dog Skip. I had some friends here. It was very open and welcoming, and I enjoyed them. And I stayed for all the reasons that I came here, because they've all turned out to be very, very real. I'm very happy with this house. I have absolutely created it to be what I wanted it to be. And I have some really good friends here that I see all the time. And I can still disappear for 6 weeks or 2 months at a time to do a project if I want to.
Some discover the town by chance.
I am from a small town, Philadelphia, Mississippi, and the way I got to Canton is my husband was head of ROTC in Ole Miss, and we were ready to move, and a friend of ours that was in ROTC was keeping our dog, and we came through Canton to pick it up. His name was Nolan Grogan, and we came through Canton to pick it up. And when we were driving through Canton, we saw this house for sale, and both of us, we are military, so we had been in the Air Force and 27 years, and we'd always said we wanted to go to a small town and buy a house, an old house. So that very day, we knocked on the door, and we came in the house, and we bought the house. This would be our 16th home. And so we were thrilled, and we just absolutely love it. I love walking to the square. The people here are wonderful, and I might add that I'm probably the only person in the state of Mississippi that was happy to move from Oxford, Mississippi to Canton, Mississippi. And we've been here since 1991, and we absolutely love it. They have welcomed us. The people here are wonderful. Everything about it is wonderful. I was very blessed. We bought the house, and a few months later, the movie people that made my dog Skip came and knocked on the door, and Willie Morris sat in my backyard, and he said, "This is perfect. I want to use your house," because we had a dog that was buried in the backyard, and my boys had a baseball field back there. And we moved out for 7 months, and the blessing was that they came and they totally renovated my home. And so that was my other blessing for Canton, Mississippi. So I love it here. I love the people. I love walking to town, to the square. I love everything about it. And my children, this is home.
Leaving the city and going into the countryside, we find more interesting people.
The reason that I live here, 1837, my great grandparents moved here. They were Irish, Catholic. There were no Catholics in central Mississippi. And they landed in New Orleans, went to Mass at St. Peter's, or St. Patrick's. Then they started up the Natchez Trace, cleaning out ditches and stuff like that. They said they rode the train, but I don't think there even was a train back then. But they worked their way up, up the Natchez Trace. When they got to Jackson, being Irish and Catholic, neither one was it was glorious, And so they kept heading north to Sulphur Springs, Mississippi, where the Lucketts had moved in, farming little cotton bottoms, little creek bottoms and stuff like that. Mini deltas is what they were called. But doing that, Peter and Ann Harkins worked for the Lucketts for a while, and then when they freed up the 5.5 million acres of Indian land, they moved across the border and settled the original Harkins place. Of which we still have, and don't have all of it, but we got enough to make a squirrel camp on it, like that. And look, as far as I'm concerned, there is no other place in Mississippi. Lots of nice places to go visit, but when you start talking home, this is home, I mean, basically in Dixieland, I'll make my stand, I'll live, I'll die right here in Dixie. I've been offered some very good jobs running shops and Dolly World and people like that wanting me to come up and manage the woodworking shop there or whatever. And Brumby Rocker Company, that's a big name in rockers, who Mr. Brumby came from Durant, Mississippi. And I had a little old lady, Miss Brumfield, one time that said that she rode a Model A Ford, or Model T, I don't remember which one it was, but she rode in the rumble seat all the way from here to there and visited her Uncle Tom, like that. And she showed me a chair, and it's a Brumby Rocker. So Brumby Rocker Company came from Mississippi, like that. Mississippi populated the earth. It's just about that way. So, she rode in the rumble seat all the way there, and she said they had to take a bath every night because they were so filthy, from the dust flying upon them and all like that, And I assumed that the way she said it was like they normally did not take a bath every night, But anyway, they wanted me to come and manage Tom Brumby's shop, the old chair shop there. And I said I had rather be Tom Brumby than I had manage Tom Brumby's shop, like that. And I mean, like I said, this is home. This is where all my ancestors are. I'm in the process now of building a cabin out of what was remaining of Peter and Ann Harkins' house that was built in 1850, 1840, something like that. I took it down because people were began to steal lumber off of it and stuff like that, and there really wasn't very much of it left. Most of it was in, shambles, basically. But I did have enough to get the majority of five cousins squirrel camp is what it's going to be called, and I'm going to let five great nephews of mine inherit it, put a little money behind it so they don't have to worry about taxes and stuff, because most of them are little bitty, like that. But it's a place that a boy can be a boy, I mean, that's pretty much it. I'm here because of a conscious effort to stay here. Okay. I'm gonna add one more thing to that. I had a guy one time came in the shop, and he said, "Well, I'm fixing to move." "Oh, I really hate to hear that, that you're moving and all." I said, "Why are you moving?" He said, "Well, you can't make a living in Mississippi. They're just that way." About that time, the phone rang, and I went over there and answered the phone, talked to these people for a few minutes. It was a company out of Japan, Fujisawa East, Japan, that did like a shop-at-home network. And what they wanted was me to build chairs for the Shop at Home network. And I said, oh, I'd love to. We'll call back and set things up and all this sort of thing. I said, okay, thanks, appreciate it. Got a phone number, bye. Went back to my buddy over there, and he said, well, who's that? I said, well, that was a Shop at Home network wanting to sell my chairs, across the world, basically, is what it ended up being. And they had a cutoff time, because they would do features on different people. It'd run for 60 days or something like that. In 60 days, I'd sold 280, 300 chairs, something like that. And and like I said, he said you couldn't make a living you couldn't make a living in Mississippi. Well, they didn't think that in Japan, They just they probably figured we were a little more modern than they were.